We all know the tales of Robin Hood, residing in Sherwood Forest, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, clad in green and always with his bow and merry men at his side. Robin Hood is the most persistent figure in English folklore, appearing in books to ballads, films to television, you name it, Robin Hood has probably been there. But of course, as I said, he is a character of folklore, a legendary figure. There was no real Robin Hood, was there? And if there were, surely his name wouldn't have been Robin Hood. And it's from here things start to become a little bit more tricky. Facts on the man become as hard to find as the light-footed bowman himself leaping through the branches. Facts and sources seem to contradict one another, with the Sloane manuscript of 1377, supposedly the first known written reference to Robin Hood, telling us he was born around 1160 in South Yorkshire, while other sources claim that there wasn't one man by the name of Robin Hood. The idea of there not being one specific Robin Hood comes from historic records of many men being labelled as Robin Hood or variations of that name. Names like Robert Hood or Robin Hood have been spotted in ancient records from the middle of the 13th century. It's believed that this name was given to men taken in by the law for thievery and branded as outlaws. It's probably no coincidence that the name Robin and the adjective of robbing sound similar. It's also believed that Hood was a dialect form of wood during that time, so the Hood part of this name reflects the lives these outlaws would live hiding in the forests of England. It seems that the Robin Hood we all have in our minds is an amalgamation of the many outlaws of this time, a figure who captured the angers and ambitions of the common people who were tired of living under rule of sheriffs and kings. Robin Hood was a figure that gave those people hope, and the ideas of the Prince of Thieves still resonates with people today. So if history tells us that there might not be one definitive Robin Hood, but rather a collection of outlaws who helped shape the idea of Robin Hood, then what are their names? I've found a selection of people who helped shape the idea of Robin Hood, one of these being Sir FULK FITZ-WARIN, a baron who was childhood friends with King John, yet fell out in adulthood. When King John took the throne, he refused FULK the right to be the true heir to Whittington Castle, and gave it to a man by the name of Rory FitzRoger, who FULK FITZ-WARIN proceeded to kill. This led to FULK becoming an outlaw and hiding in the forest of Shropshire, robbing people who came across him, at one point even robbing King John himself. It's easy to see the parallels between FULK and Robin Hood, from their residing in a forest, though Shropshire not Sherwood, to the feud between themselves and King John, regardless of how romanticised this story may have become. The story of FULK FITZ-WARIN even ties in with the idea that many believed that Robin Hood was initially a man of nobility. Despite being perhaps England's most famous hero, one person who is thought to have played a large role in the formation of the Robin Hood character is French. Eustace the monk is someone with evidence of living here and serving under King John. Despite being a monk, he had a bad reputation for swearing and gambling in the monastery, and even practiced black magic. After the murder of his father, Eustace left the life of being a monk behind him and started working for whoever gave him the highest price. There's evidence that he and King John did work together and also against each other in times of history. Eustace and his men were at one point based in the Isle of Sark under the command of King John, but when the tides turned it was the English who forced them off this island. Major Oak is cool and everything, but having a whole island as a base is a bit more cool, I think. This seafaring, black magic wielding monk is too often seen as a big influence on the legend of Robin Hood. Another candidate for being the real Robin Hood is with the Saxon Robert de KYME, who with records of robbing the king and disturbing the peace in 1226, which led him to being an outlaw. What's of course interesting with this character is the fact his name is already Robert, and Robin is believed to be an Old English variation of Robert, and by 1262 another man was arrested and outlawed by the name of William, son of Robert Lefevre. However, later records label him as William Robehod, with that surname being an Old English interpretation of Robin Hood, a name given to him due to turning to the life of an outlaw. So what was Robin Hood's actual name? Well, I guess there's a few answers to that one. One answer could be nothing, as Robin Hood is thought to not have existed in the guise we all know him by. Another answer could be anything from FULK to Eustace to William, as it seems they are the real people who inspired the masses to conjure up the hero of Robin Hood and share his tales. But honestly, I like to go with just Robin Hood. I've always been a sucker for the more romanticised view of history. To me, Napoleon will always be short, Vikings will always have horns on their helmets, and dinosaurs will never have feathers. So personally, I like to live in the world of legends of folklore and believe that the Prince of Thieves did once roam this country, taking from the rich and giving to the poor, and went by just one name, Robin Hood. Thank you to all my patrons who support Name Explain on a monthly basis. Name Explain depends on small monthly donations from fans like you to help keep the channel running. Just the small amount of $2 a month helps out in a huge way, grants you patron exclusive Name Explain extras, and gets your name here with all these awesome people. Thank you.